Let's go surfing. But warning, everybody, the tide is high. The waves are huge this week. And so it's tumultuous out there. A lot of things I'm going to have to say are not going to be pleasant. So buckle up and let's get started. Let's go surfing now. But let's get off this page before we get another copyright warning. All right, here we are. Got a lot of differences from our normal summary slide. So if you're new here, what we're going to do is triangulate for the energies, for the influence, for the main influence. And we're going for the triangulation of all these circles is this little spot right in here. And we call that the unsettled. Like there's this feeling that something big might be coming down the pike. No surprise for our listeners, of course, but something we all know, the inevitable, something big is coming, duh. But the timing might be closer than we had imagined, and we'll go through, I'll explain why I've come up with that assessment, but this is that void, the void before the big thing. And why do we have that? Well, let's start with the I-Ching, and this is called patience. And so that got me curious because you got the sun going into Leo should be this big, positive, curious, creative energies. And yeah, that's there because especially with a sun in Leo trine Jupiter. So this expansive, wise, optimistic, oh my gosh, positive Leo energy. Sun going home to Leo, like, wow, big, bold energy. But obviously there's so much going on. First of all, in this week, so July 21st to the 27th, we're not having another full moon or new moon, which is unusual. Every other week we should, in these surf reports, should have at least one of them. But we've gone 2 weeks now with no new moon. And that happens right after this surf report, so the day after on the 28th. So that's one big thing that's coming. But one magical thing that doesn't happen very often is this conjunction begins. This is North Node, Uranus, and Mars all coming together in just exactly the same speck in the sky. I mean, we're talking within just a few minutes. Now, that's not happening this week. This is happening, to go exact, is happening on actually August 1st. And I'm going to show you all that. But this is a big, big alignment for all of us. North Node, the future. Uranus is a big change and fast change and the rebellious one. And Mars is the warrior and the fighter and the yang and the get things done dude in the astrology. So all that together in the same piece of sky on August 1st, but it starts this week. So we'll talk about all that. And that's coming down the pike. And I think that's going to be the big change. It's going to be a big train derailment or steering of the current course and trajectory of humanity. And then we have the Dreambot, which is all about Mercury, and we'll go through that. So the green circle's over here. This is basically the Mercury alignments, and there's a lot of Mercury alignments, by the way. Mercury going into Leo is in fall, so it's harder to think and make logic and communicate. But the green circle's over here, but it is overlapped with the I-Ching because we have the T-square is squared up to Mercury. So that whole thing that I mentioned with North Node, Uranus, and Mars is squared off to Mercury. So that's the overlap. We're in that square, which is going to create a T-square this week, but we are in that square between Mercury on the green side and Patience I-Ching on the other side. This sort of stops us in our tracks. Everything I just mentioned, all right, with a congruency score of 80.84. Notice why I did that? Haha. 1984, get it? No, it's about that, right? There is some overlap there, but it's small, but it's big. and it's unsettled. What's next? All right, you ready? Let's get started. You know, something I rarely talk about is getting a heads up, and I want to do a little more of that on Telegram. If you guys want to get more updates about these alignments that I figure out, these influences ahead of time, I'm going to do more of that over on Telegram. The link is down below. Join that channel. And I hope to switch it a little bit more to, hey, here's what to expect in the future. But anyway, if you're interested in that, go to Telegram. Now, over on YouTube, shout out to these people, Doran, Pat, Not For Me to Say, Northern Lady, Milos, and Fed Up. All shout out to all of you. But the winner is actually a threefold tie over on Rumble. So big shout out to you Rumble watchers. If you can, all of you, YouTube and Rumble, please go down and read the comments. Put a comment down. It does help our algorithm on both platforms, and both platforms are doing well because of you. And so thank you. But shout out this week to the best comment tied is Tarif, Milos, and Not For Me to Say, all with 4 rumbles, which beat out YouTube. So thank you all, and can't wait to hear more of those comments this week. Here's our DreamBot. The DreamBot is the collection of dreams in the recent week, and it's all over the world. It's all people from all different cultures, and then we look for themes. So we have the actual words that are most common in this week's dreams, the ones that have surged the most in this week's dreams, and then we look for themes. And the undeniable theme this week is movement and travel and driving, and that matches travel of Mercury. But if we include these little segmented arrows, think, talking, and told, that's also Mercury. So it's a very Mercury run. Pretty simple. And I forgot to put the date up there. I'll have to do that later. Let's see. Let's go back to the astrology. And here's our overview as I darken up the page so you can see where I'm pointing. We're inside of these. We're like the third week in July. I'm spending so much time in the future, I forget where we are right now. Sometimes we have the sun this week going into Leo, returning home. The ruler, obviously, of Leo. You get that Leo energy. It's always hot in July and August. And we have the roar of the lion on the 8th. But this week is Mercury has also already gone into Leo. So you have mind and ego now in that. It could be dominating, but it also could be childish thinking, wonderment, curiosity. There's impulsiveness. There's a lot of things in Leo that we didn't have in Cancer. We have the Sun and Pluto still in their opposition. This is a challenge for control for the Sun, for the ego. And once the Sun goes into Leo, this becomes a real power trip, because Leo can be leadership and domination, and Pluto is that power and control. So it's an alignment of a power freak or a control freak. All right. So you thought these control freaks were already hard enough. It goes on to overdrive starting this week. Then we have Venus and Jupiter in a square, and that makes it difficult. And I've seen tons of clients with their couples, and these couples are having a hard time finding optimism in their relationship. It's tearing them apart, this energy. That hasn't even gone exact yet. And that perfects on the 25th of July. And you've got, I already mentioned, Mercury and Mars in a square. All right, Thursday, the 21st. We start with a visual representation of Venus, your relationships, love, and harmony is squared off to Jupiter. So it's hard to feel optimistic, and maybe even pulling out wisdom is the pressure to see optimism particularly in relationships and how you relate to others. It's hard. Then we have Mercury trine to Jupiter. So we have weak logic. Remember, Mercury is in a fall, and so it makes your thinking, logic, communication a lot weaker, a lot harder to organize thoughts and communicate those thoughts, but it's easy to think expansively. So you might be overly optimistic about your thoughts, but hard to communicate them, if that makes any sense. And then you have this, I'm going to call it a grand conjunction. Right now we've got the moon in the mix, but we've got Mars and moon that have just started a conjunction with Uranus, and Uranus closing in on a north node. So that whole thing, minus the moon, if you take the moon out, what's going to happen is Mars is going to march in here like kind of lazier, because Mars is in detriment here, weakened in Taurus. And likewise, Uranus is not all that strong either. Uranus in a fall. And so their, changeability or their rebelliousness is a little subdued, but you're going to have this warrior and Uranus rebellious one conjuncting almost to a perfection over the north node. And that's going to happen on August 1st. I'm going to show you that chart today, or in this video, I'm going to show you that chart. So this is I'm going to call the grand conjunction. It creates big changes in your material world in the future. North node in the future changes the course, the trajectory of the material world. And I'm going to include humanity on that, because this is going to affect everyone. Yeah, these are weakened states, but when you get these two characters together, and we've got an emotional start to this too, with the moon right here, right now, starting on Thursday the 21st, moon will be right in between these two, right as soon as they start this conjunction. So it's just like kickoff party, and we're going to start to see this energy right away. The energy of, it's going to be an easier change. And I say that because it's effortless, because this sort of a lazy Mars in Taurus, it just happens naturally. You try to go against Uranus and you get a face full of surprise. You think you have planned everything out to the nth degree. Uranus throws in a grenade and changes that. So that makes you sort of on the passive role of this change. It's just going to come. And a lot of people are going to be, change comes hard to a lot of people. The Aquarians, even the Aquarians are squared off to homeland in Saturn. And so the foundation rumbles and changes, and there's a pressure there. And Uranus has a hard time coming back, that energy coming back home. So it's conflicted and feeling isolated, and maybe disregard that line of thought. I'm going to just ignore it. Anyway, all these are changing the context of what we have created so far in this world. The whole thing shifts. The train shifts. The Taurusness, the materialness, the sense of it changes. Okay? So the timeline changes. Friday, 22nd of July, the sun at 3:06 p.m. Daylight Savings Time, Central Time in the U.S., goes into Leo. And in doing so, goes in with a roar. Loves it in Leo. It's bright. It's hot. It's dominating. It's creative. It's childish. It can be very childish. and superficial and impulsive. So there's a lot of memes there. And that's squared off to Mars. Well, Mercury is. Mercury is just ending its combust. But so right now in this, so Friday and Saturday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Mercury will be in a fall in Leo, but also in a combust with Sun. So it's really weak. All right. But the Sun itself going to be dominating, and Sun feeling on top of the world, ego feeling boisterous and beating his chest, is opposing Pluto in Capricorn. So goal-oriented control and power. And this is a subconscious power. Don't even know you're doing it. This would be power struggles, because most of the time people don't know they're doing it. They just feel controlled, but then they can't see themselves trying to control the other. They just feel controlled and manipulated. Well, when Sun in Leo feels manipulated, guess what he's going to do? He's going to go be the leader, be the dominator, be the authoritarian. So this is not pretty. It's not. It's an alignment of a control freak, and as bizarre as it might sound, so a lot of our egos might feel on the losing end of this because of Pluto. It's the hidden force. And so I don't know why I just feel played. Well, what happens when they do that? They become the authoritarian. Let's going back to this Uranus and North Node. We've been tracking this for several weeks now. Uranus only within 1.5 degrees of the North Node, and by August 1st will pretty much be very close to it, within just a couple of minutes. Okay. And then Saturday the 23rd, we have Mercury in a fall, I already mentioned, squared off to Mars in detriment. And so very childish thoughts from Mercury, and pressured with lazy action. So this is a tough scenario for a lot of people, even though there's these trines and easy energy over to Jupiter, which should feel very positive. There's this pressured energy. So you've got Saturn pressured with Uranus, you've got Mercury pressured with Mars, and you've got Venus pressured with Jupiter, which is almost going exact. I think that'll be the next day, Sunday. And so harder and harder to see the positive, even though mind is over there aloof and childish and superficial and just sort of playfully, lazily moving about, but still feels that pressure for it. That's the hardest place to be. When you're low on serotonin and low on dopamine, it's like sitting on the couch knowing that you should be doing something, but I don't feel like it, but I should be. And that's this feeling right here. It's like you have no energy to do anything, but you just, all you can think about is how you should be doing stuff. Not that Leo is all that task oriented, but there's probably this pressure and laziness in the results of that, probably feeling pressured to do something, especially with Venus pressured off to optimism. And when you feel in a relationship like there's not much optimism, what happens then? Well, you externalize and start looking for the villain. Oh, it's their fault. So that's going to hop on over here to your own thoughts, and Mercury is going to feel that pressure. Sunday, the 24th, that Venus, as I mentioned, goes exact. And so at the height of this is the climax of pessimism in terms of relationships and relating to others. Then Mars enters into Mercury gets far enough to enter into square with Uranus. So both of these together, which, by the way, they're within 5 degrees of each other. Uranus almost within 1 degree of the North Node. So future-oriented change and material change is squared off to the way you think. Difficult thinking is exacerbated by weak action and constant change. You know, it's hard to do stuff when everything just keeps on changing. That's exactly what this is. It's just going to be a challenge. But you're putting, as we go along here in the next few days, next week or so, Uranus, the rebellion, and Mars, the fighter warrior, are coming together, both in a weakened state, but when they come together, now they exponentially increase their power. And it's a very powerful, freedom-oriented, pushing along, almost an energetic state that can't be stopped. Because remember, Mars in Taurus is like a train or a big bull. It's hard to get them started. But once they start running, man, now it's hard to not only stop them, but it's hard to get them to shift and change direction. So once Uranus sets a direction, sets a change, it's Mars has to obey that, gets it shifted over, and now it's hard to change that direction. Monday the 25th. So we're continuing this formation. All eyes are on here. You can see there's a T-square starting to develop. It's going to be Mercury over to Saturn, and then this trap of the grand conjunction. Tuesday the 26th, just further progression. We have Uranus and North Node damn near close to 1 degree. Mars and Uranus within 4 degrees. So massive course correction coming and starting. You're going to see these continued changes based on rebelliousness and the yang of Mars. Now, ego feels the excitement and expansion with Mercury, the way you think, and your ego, because now Sun and Jupiter are in a trine. So that easy energy, that's at least we have that. And we have these opportunities for powerful dreams. But other than that, everything just feels really pressured and conflicted. And as I mentioned, so not quite another new moon, but I'm going to show you that here in a second. That happens on the 28th. So this is, we're talking the 27th of July, Wednesday at about noon. We have that T-square. This is where the T-square begins, or did it? Yeah. I didn't write that down for some reason, but the T-square is Mercury, Uranus, Mars, and North Node, and Saturn. And now, if you notice the numbers on here, so Mercury and Mars are at 15 degrees respectively. Saturn is at 23 degrees. So Mercury and Mars are going to be continuing their journey, relatively similar pace. And so this T-square is going to continue for a few days instead of getting rid of that energy in just a couple of days. It's going to sustain itself. And so this trap of focus is going to be on the future. Everyone's worried about the future, and things are going to change pretty fast. And it's going to seem like once those changes happen, it sticks, and it's a freight train that can't be stopped. That's what it's going to seem like. Okay. As each iteration of this changes, and you're going to be focused on, watch yourself. I promise you, most of us will be. I want to change it back. All these changes that sort of just get whacked out, you're going to want to change it back. Well, don't let it happen. Let it flow. This is a time when it's best to take your hands off the wheel or off the reins and just let your higher power take over. Trust your soul's path. Trust that the path that you've designed for this life is going to unfold the way it needs to. This is a big spiritual time for all of us. Now, I want to show you briefly now this is on August 1st. Maybe I should do this after the new moon, but I'm doing it now. This is what I want to show you. So you still have a T-square that I just mentioned, but it's the ending. This is the end stage of this T-square, the same T-square I just mentioned on August 1st. And this is when Mars and North Node are exact at 18 degrees Taurus, 33 minutes. And Uranus is at 18:42 minutes. So we're only looking at 9 minutes away with Uranus and Mars and North Node. Okay, that's very, very tight. And it's the tippy top of this T-square. So it's the trapped energy. It's the high focus area. And this is the climax of what we can expect in the future and a trajectory. And it's changing, and it's based in freedom and rebelliousness and fighting for yourself, right? And your five senses, because it's in Taurus. It's all in Taurus. Material world is through your five senses, and all that is about to change. But before that, we have on the 28th, the new moon is roughly at noon, and it's in Leo, and there's that T-square still, obviously. So generally starts this T-square starting right at the new moon, and it's going to stay until this mega, I call it the mega grand conjunction T-square thing that's going to revolutionize the world. All right. Can that be the Great Awakening alignment? I think so, because Uranus is also insight, mad science, and technology is in this archetype. So we're carrying out and pushing forth new technology in the future. This is the timeline. This is the change in the material world, how we interface with it. And Uranus is also, did I mention insight? And so the gateway to the new world without being the new world order. How about that? But patience. I think this might be the calm before the storm, because you've got the new moon is not going to happen this week, and you've got that great conjunction. It's just starting, but it's not going to get precise until August 1st. So this time here, according to the I-Ching, is just your catch will come in its own good time. You cannot make it come sooner. So we probably yearn for more, so for something just to show us what's going to happen. Weakness grows agitated, abandoning the effort before the fish start biting. That is the feeling that you get when the fish aren't biting. So you give up. And so patience is not necessarily our solution this week. It's just showing you what it's like, what it feels like. Steadfast waiting, holding to your integrity leads to slow but permanent improvements. And then line 1 says, troubling events may be looming. Duh, that's what we just talked about, causing some apprehension. Avoid reacting prematurely. Keep your life in order. Do not try to alter the path that has been set for you at this time. Doesn't that sound like what we talked about with the Mars and Uranus? It's not something that you can control. It's out of your control. So leave it up to your higher power, or sit back into yin, which is complete relaxation, and allow the pieces of the puzzle to unfold the way they should. Let go of anxious thinking, meditate, remain open, alert, and prepared. You got to, with Uranus over the North Node, remain open, alert, and prepared. All right. And the solution is the well. And the well, if you remember, it's about digging deep. And your clarity is going to be reached by putting your bucket down further into the well. You got to reach down further and tap the insights that are down there. I put the sun, which is probably the biggest astrological energy this week, is going into Leo, and I plop that into our conversion chart, and you get 56, gate 56 in Cancer. And that's our solution for the Sidereal Astrology. That's the Wanderer. Expediency is the line 4, the perfection of the superficial personality that can mask, when essential, its true feelings to secure protection. The gift for stimulation is a role, and for protection. Protection matches the Cancer. So we have a pretty good solution happening or forming. So let's get into our solution slide. All right. Yeah, this guy's confused, and that matches our Mercury state. Our thoughts and our communication is confused. It's weak. It's hard to assimilate things and communicate those. So, overview. Sun moves into Leo and trines Jupiter, which feels optimistic, youthful, expansive, even synchronistic. But outside that bubble, we know there's so much more looming. Pressured and conflicted. Something big is coming in the works, but what is it? Feelings of the great unknown and the pressure to know. That's the influence, folks. So what do we do about it? Well, we're going to triangulate for our various solutions, and the first one is the I-Ching 48. It says, avoid shallow thinking. Slow down and dig deep. The Rave, if you remember, said expediency. This seems like a contradiction. The superficial can adequately mask the true core. The gift for stimulation. Let's look at that. I'm going to look at that because is there an overlap between avoiding shallow thinking and allowing the superficial or the shallow to mask what's deeper or the true core? Yes, there is, and I'll go through that. The sidereal Cancer is protective and caring and maternal. So here we go. There is a hidden overlap in this week's solution. It's about recognizing the deeper emotions. Thoughts. Okay, let me start over. It's about recognizing the deeper emotions, thoughts, beliefs, wants, and needs. That's the depth. That's the true core. That's the deeper into the Rave. The Rave appears to contradict the I-Ching in superficiality and shallowness, but the overlap of deep awareness is confirmed by the sidereal Cancer solution. Deep emotional content will exist this week, and the I-Ching asks us to slow down and realize just how deep it goes. Avoid spending time in material type thinking. Hard to do because that grand conjunction is in Taurus, so it's in the material world. You're seeing the deterioration of the material world or the change in the material world. It's all changing, and so you can't help but think about it. But that's part of our overlap here. It's part of our triangulation. Avoid spending time in material type thinking, and that's confirmed by the I-Ching, and instead place value in the deeper, more existentially meaningful content. At the same time, the Rave instructs us to mask that depth and meaning from others. It's a private inner world this week, at least from the self to others. However, the Cancer solution invites us to care deeply about the people around us. Be empathetic, caring, and protective of others, but without sharing a lot of content from our inner self. Shut up and listen. Empathize and seek depth of understanding through curious, strong, wise inner work. Right? When you do good inner work, a lot of us want to think about it. And that's what's so magical about this week, is because Mercury is so inundated with pressure, conflict, and fall and weakened state and combust that it's going to be hard to think. And that's the beauty behind this. So stop thinking and be aware of the emotional content and the deeper core information. Not that you need to share all of that. Typically, for good bonding, you are going to be sharing that inner experience. But this week, Remember, relationships are conflicted. It's hard to feel the optimism. So you want to just let people be themselves. Take your distance, be a little bit more padded, give a little bit more physical distance from each other. And so you avoid conflict with relationships, you avoid misunderstandings. And especially if you really try to share all this, deep stuff, emotional content, it might get construed this week. So I think that's why the rave says, just put your mask on. Be aware that that stuff is down there, but don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. Just experience it, right? And acknowledge it to yourself. And that's it. All right. Very, very challenging week, in my opinion, especially with that solution. Okay. When the energies clear up, which I don't really know when that's going to be, it's time to start sharing again with your loved ones, and that will create good bonding. The mantra that you can use is, I'm thinking in honor of this patience feeling is, and this expectancy that something big is going to happen, is getting ready for the North Node Uranus Mars to go precise, to go exact. And that would sound something like, I dive deep to adequately prepare to carry out my highest life purpose. North Node is a lot about life purpose. Uranus is the freedom to do that and the insight to be able to do it and the uniqueness to do it, because Uranus doesn't really need a lot of people around. Yeah, he's friendly and everything, but he's not cold, but he can do just fine without anybody there. And then Mars is the ability to carry it out. And so let's prepare now. Prepare to carry out my highest life purpose. All right, that's all I got, everybody. You guys take care of each other, but mainly take care of yourself. Don't abandon yourself. That's why I'm advising a lot of my clients in this week. And it's the most common suggestion I have for all of them as they're going through this tumultuous period, especially in relationships, is don't abandon yourself. Okay? That's the punchline this week. And we will catch you again next week for another volume of the CIRF Report. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye.